So it is the last session. I'm a little sad, I must admit. I've had so much fun. It's been 3 days of So You Want to Be an Author, Now What Telesummit. I've been your host. I'm Nikki Woods. And like I said, it's been 3 days, but it has been 3 phenomenal days. And we are at the last session, but I have got double the trouble and double the information and double the fun for you on this call. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we'll be able to take a lot of your questions and really get some knowledge to you in this call in the form of the questions and the answers and the things that you really want to know. But we started it off on Monday with Sarah Green, who did a phenomenal job of just laying the foundation about what a book can really do for you, do for your life, do for your business, do for your brand, and how you leverage that. And then Finesse Mitchell was our second session on Monday, and he talked about, his unique journey to being an author. But the phenomenal thing, or the really interesting thing to me about Finesse, is that he really used the book to establish himself in a different market. He's a comedian, he's an actor, and he became a relationship expert because he wrote this book that gave him credibility in that arena, and he really leveraged that to kind of introduce himself to another audience. And then yesterday, our first session was with Stephanie Bavaro, who has really branded herself with telesummits like this, but also with collaborating with other speakers and other authors. And she did it first with audio, and then she went ahead and she put it into a book. And so she had Grateful Woman Talks, the audio series, and then she started her first volume of the book. So that was really exciting to talk to her and just learn about the importance of collaborating. And then we had Kristen Keys, and if you were on the call, it was a little challenging with Kristen to get him on, but he was determined, and we finally figured out a way to do that. So he was able to join the call, and once he did, I think that he blew everybody away with just his honesty and his transparency about what writing has done for his, not only his career, but his life. He is a creator. He is an actor. He's a director. He's a producer. And now he's a novelist that I had forgotten in the very beginning to add musician to his credits, but he has albums out and that sort of thing. So that's really, really exciting. And then this morning earlier this afternoon, we talked to Abiola Abrams, who has written a book, and I say that it's indeed a movement, and I think that she was very intentional about creating a movement around this book and what she really wanted to share with the world. And she was very fascinating, and she's very high energy, and it just was really interesting to see. And the one thing I pointed out with Abiola that I thought was really cool is she also was kind of branded as something else. She was a relationship, dating, love person. She was in that arena, and with this book, she successfully, I think, rebranded herself into self-empowerment, self-love, and kind of that arena. And I thought it was done so well, but I had even forgotten that she used to be a relationship coach not too long ago. So I thought that was really cool, and she talked a lot about that and how she was able to intentionally rebrand herself. So that was the first 5 sessions, and like I said, we have come to the end of this, and we have our 6th session today, and I have 2 phenomenal women, authors, business women, entrepreneurs on to talk about how they've built a business around their book and how they've been able to leverage their book for greater credibility, but also just greater visibility, and how they've used it to kind of guide their path in this whole world and sea of entrepreneurs, how it's made them stand out. So I'm really, really excited to talk to them. And like I said, just hold on, because they both have a lot of energy, and it's going to be really, really fun. I can guarantee it. And then I've also told you a lot about the things that I'm trying to do, and I've shared my experience here and there and some nuggets. But I've also told you about some other opportunities that I have coming up, and I'll talk more about it at the end of this call. But I'm really looking for people who have stories to tell, and people who want to share, and they want to be a published author, and they want to do something in conjunction with me. So I have a really, really cool opportunity coming up that I think, will be really interesting to the right group of people. And I think it would be really beneficial to the right group of people. So I want to introduce our two guests. I'm going to start with Donyell Winningham, who I tell you, I think I said this on my Facebook, and I really believe it because I'm not an easy person to open up, and it takes me a while to really, I think let my guard down around people. And with Donyell, it was like almost immediate. She's just like one of those kind of person, people that just really loves you. And even though she might not agree to this, I think it's the truth. She just loves you so much that she's going to hold you accountable to you doing great things in this world. And she has been such a blessing in my life, personally and professionally. And she's just been a great role model in, for me as an entrepreneur and for me as a woman, and a woman that's, trying to play big in this world. She's written 5 best-selling books. She's won 3 presidential awards, and she is the founder of 2 national movements for women. I am always surprised at the amount of energy that she has and how she is always showing up for other people. One of her passions is helping uncover personal worth and wealth for people. And so we'll tell you more about what she does in that arena in a little bit. But then we also have April Franks Hunt, who I call her a beast. She's a beast. She scares me a little bit sometimes, but in a really good way. And it's not coincidental that her company is also called Women Recharged because she is always on. Her book, Confessions of an Independent Woman, Truth, Lies, and Relationship, is a great example of not only her personal journey of growth, but what a book can do for your company and your brand. And if you know anything about April, she's extremely transparent, and she always is sharing whatever is going on. If you check her Facebook page, you might have seen a picture of her today, moisturizing, deep conditioning her hair at work, which I thought was hilarious. But she's a true testimony to what it means to walk the walk and talk the talk. So, Donyell and April.
Hello.
Hey. Oh, hey. I got that minute of nervousness. So, Donyell, let's start with you. April has kind of been hanging out with me for 3 days, and so I want to start with you. Tell me a little bit about the moment where you decided that you were going to write a book.
Oh, that's crazy. And you know what? One of the reasons I do this, Nikki, it is almost embarrassing for me to say this, but I have a book called Do the Right Thing by some guy named, I think, Kwame Jackson. I bought that book in 1997. And I ran across that book not too long ago, and it had all these outlines in there that I'd filled out. And that is how long on paper that I know I've wanted to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long I can trace it back that I said to myself, I want to write a book. And so that's why I'm so glad that you're doing this telesummit, because I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that want to write a book. Don't wait 20 years. Don't wait 17 years. There's tools and resources available that you don't have to wait that long. But it was literally 20 years for me, Nikki.
So
a long time, huh?
Yeah, that is a long time. What was the deciding moment then? I mean, what got you going?
So I have twins, Hope and Faith, who turned 17 this year, and it was in their first year of being born. And everybody always commented on how clean they always were and how efficient I always was, and just other mothers would flock to me for tips on how to save money on diapers and milk and all. And you know what? I thought, man, this information is not available out there anywhere. I should put it on paper. And unfortunately, at that time, I didn't. But that's when I first realized the power of sharing information through the written word. And that was the first time that I really wanted to write a book so that other parents of not just kids, but parents of multiples could know, here's how you, do how you make this work. Because it was tough.
And so with being so efficient, I guess, that allowed you to create a schedule for writing, or what was that piece of it like, the actual writing of the book?
The actual writing of the book was, I have to write when I feel like writing. and I even read a quote by Martha Beck one time and said, work when you feel like working, play when you feel like playing, and rest when you feel like resting. And I think too often we try to, put ourselves in this tight schedule, but I'm the type that I have to write when I feel like writing. So I have to, if I get a moment and I feel like I have a word in my mind or in my heart, I have to just steal away and put it on paper as soon as I can. And if I can't, I'll bullet point it and go back later. But for me, I have to truly feel like, I have to be in a zone to write, so to speak.
And so how long from the first time you got in a zone till the last zone, I guess, for the first book, how long did it take you to write the book?
So my very first book, where I said I'm going to publish this book, because I've written tons of books on my computer that I haven't even published. But my very first book that I published, I had gone to a class, a corporate class, and my job sent me to from a company called Stop at Nothing, and they had us write a letter to ourselves and to congratulate ourselves as if whatever we wanted to accomplish had already been accomplished. And my thing was writing that book. And so they were going to mail the letter to us in 30 days. And so I had literally had 30 days to write my very first book. I didn't finish in 30 days. It took me more like 45. And that was just the rough draft, the first run at it, the very, very rough draft, RUFF draft. But it was literally 45 days. And the letter came at the 30-day mark, and I didn't open it until I actually finished it. So it was just that physical act of knowing I'd already written this congratulations letter to myself that made me buckle down and get the book written.
But I think that's amazing, and I want to point this out for people because I'm more so the person when I talk to people about writing their book and I try to coach them through writing their book. I mean, I'm more so that you have to set a schedule and you have to write every day. So even with you saying that you only write when you're in a zone, you were still able to finish your first book, Rough Draft, in 45 days. So I want people to take note of that. So it's not like Danielle, like when she got in the zone, she wrote, and then 5 years later she finished. She still finished her book in 45 days. So that says something about your zone. Because when you get in a zone, you must really get in a zone.
You know what, Nikki, but I'll step back and clarify that. Part of what I do, and not just writing but speaking and coaching that makes me successful, is I identify my sweet spot of every day. I know from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'm by myself. I'm uninterrupted. I commune with God. I'm closer to the Spirit at that time. And more often than not, that's my most productive writing period. And so I have parts through the day that I'm more productive coaching, parts in the day that I'm more productive speaking. I know not to get on those stages at 6 p.m. I'm not going to be any good. After 4 p.m., don't put me on a stage anywhere in front of anybody. So I think that that's an exercise that your listeners may want to do is, when do my thoughts flow? What time of day is that? Some people are early birds. Some people are night owls. A lot of writers are night owls. They're just up, like me and April, like just up at night.
That's April's style. So let's bring her in now. That's what she's trying to write. April, tell us about your journey and a little bit about why you decided you wanted to put your life really on the pages of the book, because your book is a memoir.
Yeah, I didn't really decide, actually. It was almost like all of my life, people, and I'm sure your listeners can relate to this, people are like, oh, my God, you need to write a book. Oh, my God, girl, you need to write a book. Oh, my God, girl, this is a Tyler Perry movie. So when you're constantly hearing that, I'm like, write a book? Like, I'm not writing a book. Like, nobody wants to hear about, my life. And I think I had heard that so many times. I was like, okay. So it was really because I hired a career coach in 2010. I'll never forget her name was Monique Edelton in Atlanta. I was living in Oklahoma. And one of her number one thing of 5 things after our coaching was, she's like, you have got to write a book. And I was like, really? And there were some other things, too, that went along with that. But the nucleus of building Women Recharge and building what we're building was to write the book. And I like to say that the book chose me. You know, it was just something that I felt like I had to do. And I almost felt too, because it was a memoir. So for those of you who may be writing a memoir, I felt like I wanted to be done with that. That's why the book is called Confessions. Like, I just want to be done with that. I want to be done with that period in my life, and I was just ready to move forward. And for me, the book really was closing a chapter. You know, it was closing all of those chapters and those experiences. So for me, that's where it kind of came from.
And so for you, what was your writing process like? I know
I'm a night writer.
You gave notice. You know, you were like, I'm going to quit doing this for a certain amount of time, and I'm just going to focus on this book.
Yes, I did. So, I remember the dates like they were yesterday. At the end of November was the end of our session with that coach. I gave a notice to my clients that January 31st of the next year, which was just, 2 months later, that I would no longer be real estate consulting, and I was going to write my book full time. I gave myself 6 months, so from January to June, to write the book. And this was without this knowledge, and this is why this is so great. Like, for those of you listening live into the replay, you don't even understand to have the information in advance. It's such a time saver. So when you hear people like Danielle and Nikki and Christian Keys, and we say that we're doing stuff in 21 days and in 45 days and in 3 months, it's because we've learned, and fast-tracking a successful read, it's because we learned and implemented some very specific strategies to make that happen. And so for me, I like to write at night. I am literally a 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. I could sit there and drill out 20,000 words, on a Saturday afternoon or late at night. I am a hiatus writer, so I also like to plan to go write. So I'll plan a weekend at my mother-in-law's who lives in the country, or I'll go stay in a hotel because I really need peace. I have kind of adult ADHD, and so I'm distracted extremely easily. So any quiet time when I'm trying to check out from the world, that's really how I get it done, because you have to be dedicated to the process. You got to be committed. And for me, that commitment involves, a complete silence and kind of some seclusion.
So for each of you, how was it? Because I know, April, you're extremely transparent with this book, and you share a lot about your life, but you also share a lot about others. What was the process, with kind of uncovering those raw emotions? What was that like for both of you?
Well, for me, I cried the whole time I wrote the damn thing. I was so done with that book. I was like, really? Is this what writing is? Because I don't think you realize that you whether you're creating it or it's factual, and for me it was a memoir, so I do talk about some very personal traumatic experiences and triumphs. But I was so done with it. I was just like, God, I cannot write another page about my life. Is this even real? And I've had people ask me, they're like, did all this stuff happen? I'm like, girl, yes, it happened, So it was very therapeutic. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about other people. And it really helped me evolve, even more so as a woman. So I think the writing process, you really get intimate with the words and your experiences, because I think writing makes you stop. I think it causes you to pause. And Danielle, I know you can speak to this, but I think it really causes you to stop and pause and really evaluate, as opposed to when we're just living life, we just go through it. You don't really stop and smell the roses. You just, if something bad happens, you just keep it moving, right? Because you got to get up the next day. You got to go to work. The kids still need to be fed, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, oh, my God, I cried every day. And I told my husband, I said, because my book is about relationships, I said, I done fell in love with all these men. I'm so sick of cheating on you while I'm writing this book, jokingly. And so, yeah. Danielle, where are you at with that one?
I have to agree, April. My book wasn't necessarily a tell-all, but at all. But I did write the book for my girls, and it was kind of a what not to do. That now that you're a woman, the Girlfriend's Guide to Girl Power, and how to keep your self-respect and And it was just a outpouring of emotions to tell my daughters. And these are the same things that I find myself now that they're teenagers. I tell them almost every day, but it's in writing now, so they can't say I didn't tell them. But it was all of these mistakes of my own that I had to replay to myself in order to write the truth in that book. You know, and the majority of it was stuff that I'm telling you not to do it because your mama didn't have nobody to tell her not to do it. So don't you go do this. I'm telling you, you know, it's not the right thing. And so I agree with April. It's a very emotional experience. But again, and I want to tell every person that's listening, when you don't write your book, when you don't tell your story, you're failing to deliver someone else. And that's why we write. We write because we have made these mistakes, or we have found out this body of information, or we have run upon an epiphany that if it can save one other person, you know, it would have been worth me spilling my guts to write this book. And so don't not write your book, because we all are raised up to save a body of people. And when you don't tell your story, when you don't write your book, the people that, you know, you were raised up to deliver, they have to struggle through delivery. Like April said, if I had a call like this, you know, before I wrote my book, my book would have been written. It would have been a wrap. You know, I wouldn't have had to struggle, you know.
So let me ask you this, because one of the things that we get a lot of pushback on is people thinking, who would want to read my book? Why would people see me as an expert? And that line of thinking. And I think it's interesting that you said that the only reason you really wrote your book, The Guide to Girl Power, is that you wanted your daughters to know something. And that's two people. You wanted your daughters to know something. Why was it, how did you push through, I guess, that fear of maybe nobody else will read the book? Or did you even have it?
Yeah, absolutely, I had it. To this day, I have it.
Well, I don't think you have any fear, so it's always
that's crazy. People say that, and that is so crazy because everybody has them. Everybody has fears of the weirdest and the craziest things, but absolutely, we all have that certain level of uncertainty anytime we do anything new, and a book is no exception. Is anybody going to buy it? Is anybody going to read it? You know, but here's the thing. If you don't do it, you don't know. You just will never know. And so I'd rather do it and not get it right or fail or whatever than just always sit and wonder what coulda, woulda, shoulda been. And, I mean, sometimes you have to use your fear as like the catalyst to I refuse to sit still, and I refuse to allow fear to hold me hostage. So when it's all said and done, you got to say to yourself, look, if I got to buy 1,000 of these books myself, that's what I'm going to do. And you go write that book. But I tell them, this is the third day in a row I've said, you know, any hardship we go through, any amount of discomfort, is not God just sending you through the hardship to send you through the hardship. He didn't make Harriet a slave just to make Harriet a slave. He made Harriet a slave because somebody had to go back and deliver folks.
Come on.
You know, he didn't make Helen Keller blind just because he wanted that woman to be blind. Somebody had to say blind people can see too. It's just different. And so whatever you've gone through in your life, if you don't put it on paper, it makes it that much harder for the people who are out there. Keep in mind, the world full of billions of people. So the 10 people you fool with that tell you, girl, ain't nobody going to read that book, they tripping. Go find you 10 more that tell you they will. Because somebody somewhere is waiting to read your book.
Absolutely. And what about you? And I think it's interesting because even though, and Abiola and I had this conversation earlier, even though we write fiction, it's still your heart. I mean, it's still your life. It's still your emotions. And even when you're writing something that's supposed to be a fictional scene, you still connect with it on a level. It's just like when you go to the movies. I mean, the goal of the movie is to make you feel something. In order to do that, the people producing the movie, writing the fictional novel, they have to have felt something. So even though I may be writing about a character's heartbreak, my heart has been broken, and I connect with it. So it still dredges up all of that emotion. It's just not my name on the character. So it's interesting because it's still like laying your soul bare, you know, for people to read, you know, what you've been through. So, and for you, April, I mean, you really had to not only deal with yourself, but with other people. How did you deal with the fact that you had other people in that book and you tell part of their lives?
Well, and that's a really good question because it was my story, and I felt like, and let me say this, I did call people. I called most of the people that was involved in the book, and I put them on notice. I didn't ask for permission. I put them on notice as a courtesy that I was writing the book and that they would be mentioned. Of course, a name that I made up, but it still was factual with the situation. I did put them on notice in regards to that. But, I just decided that I couldn't be held hostage by anyone else's story and not tell my own. And then just to answer your question earlier about the fear, I really wasn't afraid. I don't know what that's about, and I even write about that in my book. I really don't have that fear thing going on. I mean, I don't know where that came from, if it's a God thing or what, but I really like to just jump in, and whatever happens, happens. We plan for the best, and, we move into things with good intention, but I felt like if I didn't write the book, that not only would it be doing a disservice for the women who will be reading those words and know what could be possible for them, but I feel like I would have been trapped in my past, and I just wasn't willing to be that person. I wasn't willing to live there, anymore, and that was just a decision that regardless of what people thought, and people ask me that, even now, they're like, oh, my God, I can't believe you said X, Y, and Z. How do your parents feel? And I said, I had a conversation with my father. And this is something I openly talk about. My father is an alcoholic. I love him to death. He gets by me talking about him. I talked to him today for about 20 minutes. We are really great friends today, but it always wasn't that way. And because of that, I am who I am, and I think that was important to tell. But we had a conversation, and you know what my father told me? He said, do what you got to do. And I told him, I said, you may or may not want to read it. I said, there's things about your daughter as a woman that you may not want to know. I said, so, and I'm writing about you as well and how your alcoholism and abuse impacted my life. And I said, it's not to hurt you, it's to heal other people and to heal me. And I need you to be okay with that. That was the conversation. And we had never discussed it. I have never said to my father that you were alcoholic. I have never said that you were abusive until literally a week before the book came out. So I think you just, at some point, especially when it's something like this, because a lot of women are telling their stories, right? And I know you're working on a compilation, and you'll have women joining your journey as well, Nikki. But it's really it's freeing. And when people would ask me how I felt, freedom is the only word I can tell. I just didn't want to be trapped anymore. And so the fear just dissipated.
That's amazing.
And Nikki, that's Captain Fearless right now. You talk about me being fearless? April is Captain.
Oh, no.
Man, let me tell you, from the day I met April, we were talking about that earlier today, until now. I won't disclose all the details, but that is truly Captain Fearless right there. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, she scares me. She really does. I mean, it's in a really good way, but I think you and April and other people, you're used to dealing with people who have something that they really want to, they really want to give back to the world. There's a higher calling that they're trying to achieve, and we need people like you and April who are not scared to tell us, just write the damn book, okay?
Right?
Just do it. And you're so scared to say no to either one of you, not just April, that you write the damn book. That's just how it goes. And I know I do that for some people too, but it's refreshing to have people that can also do it for me. So I really do appreciate that. And now that you all have written the book, I'm interested for you all to share, like, how that has changed. We've heard more about how it's changed you personally, but for your business and your brand, how has it changed? Sonia,
wow. I think for me, I think writing a book was the catalyst, because I wrote the first book, and then so many people were like, okay, now I need more help. So I wrote a workbook, and then people were like, well, I need more help. So I started doing workshops, and I need more help. And so I started coaching, and then I need more help. And so I started speaking to, hundreds, if not 1,000 people in a room. And so that just the book was the catalyst to people do. I think it kind of puts some of that at bay, that people don't want to hear your message, or your message is not important. And like you said, Nikki, it started out, I'm going to write the book for 2 people, but in the span of time since I've written that book, just the hundreds, if not thousands, of people that I've touched since then, it's humbling, and it's amazing that it all started with that book. So it really, really does. It's a life-changing move. I will tell you that.
And for those of you who are not familiar with Donyell, she has the Wealthy Sisters Network, which is changing the life of people across the globe. I was at one of Donyell's events recently and spoke, and she had people that came from England that had come in just for this event, and I'm like, it's amazing to see. And so to think that had come, has started just because of a book is really it's quite amazing. What about you, April?
Okay, so when I wrote the book, I was like most people, and I might be like most people listening. I didn't really have a plan on my next thing. But what happens, and this is why we coach people to coach, speak, write, and serve, is just exactly what Donyell said. Most of the time, we're writing a book for us, right? Because even though you know it's going to impact people, you're writing it because you got something to say. Well, what happens is, for us, I had something to say. I wrote the book, and then just what Donyell said, people are like, well, what's next? I need more. Because the book is the beginning. It is the catalyst, but it also leaves people hanging. They're like, okay, I need something else. What you got?
Right.
Like you help me through this, you entertain me, or you whatever it is. What's the next thing? Even if it's fiction work, they hanging like, when is the next book? Because I need to know what happens to character X. And so for us from the business side, we looked at that and said, okay, once it came out and I had to look back in hindsight and correct some things, I was like, okay, what do I want to build? And for me, the book, I don't even talk about relationships, okay? First of all, the book is about relationships, and that's not even what I talk about. When people hire me to speak, I'm typically not really talking about relationships. I'm usually talking about business or branding, marketing, something like that. So the book really was a positioning tool because people, and Nikki said it a gazillion times on this summit, the book really positions you as the expert in X, Y, and Z, even if the subject matter, because in order to pull it off, right, in order to write the book, you have to have a certain something. You know something, you completed something, you developed something, you produced something, and all of those things to me go into the range of the type of professional you can become. And for me, as soon as I wrote the book, people wanted to know, well, how'd you do that? I want to do that, and so it really did, literally just morph into more speaking, and when you speak more, you sell more books, and then after the speaking, it's like, okay, well, people need more help, so now you're coaching and you're consulting, with people, and you really can build a career. I can share really quickly with when I started writing my book, I had shut my business down. Remember, January 31st, I wasn't making any money. I shut the business down. I remember going to speak in Atlanta at a conference at Spark and Hustle. I remember speaking. I remember not knowing what the hell I was doing, and just that my book was going to be coming out. I had no plan. Now, this is 2-3 years later, and our goal is $1 million to gross next year. That's how serious this can be, if you want it to be. Like, this is so not a game. Like, you can really connect with the right people and build your platform and position yourself. And it's not an overnight thing, because I've worked my behind off, and so has Donyell and Nikki, as we continue to do. But if you position yourself properly, the book can really catapult you into certain areas. And I know, Nikki, we might get into a little strategy, but something Donyell and I like to do when you're using it as a strategy is we like to dictate our book, which does make things go a little faster. So there are so many different things that you can do when you start connecting with people and you look at, okay, where do you want this book to go? Because it's not just about the book. The book really is the beginning. It's not just about the book. So just, keep those things in mind. So
And I absolutely want to talk. I do want to talk strategy, and I also want to talk some logistics. We have people already lining up for questions, and if you want to ask a question as well, you can just hit *6, and it'll put you in the queue. And also, and I didn't say this in the beginning, but you guys have been doing a great job, and I appreciate it. When you share socially, just use the hashtag #BeAnAuthor. You've been tagging April and you've been tagging Danielle in your comments on Twitter especially, which I could see the feed. So you're doing great. Just keep it up. I really, really appreciate it. But Danielle, tell me a little bit about the process for you on the self-publishing side, and then I want to talk a little bit more about strategy like April said. But what was the process like for you self-publishing?
I will tell you my first book cost me $1 million to publish. And that is just not knowing, but refusing to back down and had the resources. So I kept throwing money at it because I said, I know I can make this thing work. And this is the beauty of making mistakes. Now, when you have calls like this, you don't have to make mistakes like that. But I'm the type that if it's going to cost me on the front end but save me on the back end, I'm going to keep going. So my first book, self-publishing, I paid entirely too much for the book cover, entirely too much for the editing, entirely too much for everything. But I learned. I kept moving. So by the time I got to my second book, third, fourth, fifth book, they were a fraction of what I spent on the first book. And, I learned so much about the process. But if you don't know the process or you don't have somebody you can trust, there's so many ways to get fleeced in the publishing game, and if you don't know it, it's so cutthroat. It's like the music industry.
It is,
and everybody
always
talks about, huh?
No, I said it really is.
Yeah, if you don't have someone you can trust, or if you don't have help, man, you'll end up publishing and signing your rights away, or you'll end up publishing and having 1,000 mistakes in your book, or you'll end up publishing and there's just so many things that can go wrong so many places if you don't have help. And again, that's why Nikki and this call and this Selling Summit is a blessing, because this is where you start to get the help you need. But the process itself, now that I look back on it, it seems so easy, but everybody always say hindsight is 20/20.
I know that's right. I know, and that's what I have been saying. I mean, this is us shortening the learning curve for a lot of people, because I think even you with self-publishing, April has learned a ton with her process, and me going through a publishing house. I mean, there's drawbacks to everything, and there's learning moments and opportunities to everything. But like you, I wish that I had, heard this information. I wish that somebody had presented this, so that I would know in order to make a more informed choice, and that I would know what to look for, what was necessary, and where the dangers, I guess, are. So, April, tell us a little bit more about strategy and how you're starting to leverage not only the first book, but you're working on your second and your third. How are you going to leverage those going forward?
Well, one of the things that we realized early on was, what do I, outside of the book, okay, because again, I'm about range. So I love it when people understand that just because you wrote about cupcakes doesn't mean you only know about cupcakes. You know about the whole process. You know about the business behind the book. So there's so many other things that you know about. You're bringing all of those past experiences. The book is just proves that you're a badass, I mean, in my opinion. It just proves that you can do the thing. So I think knowing your range is important, knowing what all you're good at, and don't just get stuck in, I'm just a fiction writer. Like, I love what Nikki's done. She writes fiction, but she's getting on interviews and doing all these different things because she's talking about the subject matter of the book, which is relevant to today's society. So I think thinking outside of that is very important, even if you're writing nonfiction. Just because you write about social media, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can write, that you can talk about or you can help people with. So number one, know exactly, start identifying where you want to go. What does that look like? And then the second thing for us is, what are we selling besides the book? I really need y'all to get this. The book is not going to make you rich, okay? But having the book in your strategy can help you get on the road to prosperity. okay, because the book is a strategy. It's so many other things. It's, of course, you feeling accomplished and, you know, your mama's proud and your friends is proud, but it is a strategy. And I think when you look at it that way, it helps you chart out that process. So what else are you selling once the book is done? Because a $20 book is not going to make you rich. You know, that's a lot of books. So a lot of people, for instance, I love to use this example. A lot of people say, oh, I want to make 6 figures. Okay, let's just say that's $100,000. $100,000 is $8,333 a month, or $2,087 a week, or $297 a day. That's a lot of books if that's all you got. So be thinking about that, you know. And Nikki, I think that's really important. Break down your numbers, okay? So again, so is it books? And it can't just be books and tapes. It has to be something more. So a book can definitely be there. And if you want to incorporate, and here's the thing, a lot of people are like, but I don't want to speak. Well, the only person that's going to talk about your book with the passion and the drive is you.
Is you.
I don't know any other person who is going to speak in front of a group so passionately about your book and be able to sell it, you know, into the hearts and the souls of the people that's sitting there in the minds than the person who wrote the book, because that's who people want to hear from. So I would say get comfortable with speaking. Just stop fighting it. It's a part of the process.
So, no, that's awesome. And I know one thing that Danielle talks about, and Danielle, maybe you can share a little bit about that here, about how millionaires really make their money, and a lot about the residual income, but also having products that continuously make you, and I can't even remember who said it, but they call it the back of the head money, and I think maybe it's Lisa Nichols. But the money that just in the middle of the night, it's just coming in.
Yep.
You don't even have to be awake for it to land in your bank account. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. All millionaires, and into the article says the average millionaire has 5 to 7 streams of income. So when April says you're not going to get rich off that one book, she's absolutely correct, because nobody's getting rich off just one thing. And she did the math on $100,000, but what I like to show people is that when you do the math on $1 million, you got to make $1,300 and some change in the morning and $1,300 and some change in the afternoon every day. That's a lot of books. So you do have to say, what am I going to do to augment these book sales? It shouldn't just be books. And so you have to go back to what you love. What are you passionate about? And I'll give you an example. I have a client who, when I met her, all she did was bake cakes. Phenomenal cakes, wonderful cakes, but how many cakes are you going to have to sell to become a millionaire? Come on, man, that's a bunch of doggone cakes. I like cake, and I couldn't even eat all them cakes. And so that's a lot. It's a lot of cakes. And so I said, okay, what are we going to do to diversify, your earnings? And one of the first things we did was we had her write a recipe book. Did she have to write a recipe book? She absolutely did not. She already had the recipes. So literally all she had to do was get the recipes together, and she was able to publish her book, which increased her earnings, because now, in addition to I'm selling you this cake, let me also sell you this recipe book where you can find the recipe to the cake. Even if you'll never make one, it's just it's something that people like. And so in addition to that, she started holding cooking classes. And in addition to that, she started holding cooking classes for kids on the weekend, showing single women or women about to be married how to cook cakes. In addition to that, she started shipping her cakes out. And now she's in the process of trying to get her cake mix actually for production so she can sell it in specialty stores. That's at least 6 or 7 streams of income. And so she's gone from making like $25,000 a year to I think she's on course to make about $150,000, $175,000 next year. And if she gets the production deal, she'll easily be at $250,000. You have to be able to take what you're doing and do different stuff with it. So the book is just the start, but then you have to put other stuff with it as well. Does that kind of make sense what I was saying? Did that answer your question, Nikki?
No, it did, and that's what I want people to hear. I mean, one thing that everybody on the call has said is that you have to learn how to multi-purpose whatever it is you're doing, and not only in different streams of income, but on different platforms as well.
Right.
I think that one thing that a misconception is that we can overwhelm our tribe. And I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think that our tribe wants every single thing that we can give them. But then you also have to think about the people outside of your tribe that may only want a cookbook. They may not even want to buy a cake from you. They may just want the cookbook. Or they may just want to be able to go to Kroger and get the box mix so that they can make, cupcakes for their kids to enjoy on Saturday. Or just like I buy my cakes from somebody in Houston, so I don't even buy them locally. They ship them to me. So what Donyelle is saying is the truth. I mean, you have to learn how to not only pull in the multiple streams of income with different things, but also with the same thing. And so that's really, really important. I guarantee you we're going to go long today, and I'm not going to be one bit sorry about it. You're going to learn a lot. So I do want to open it up for questions so that we can get some of those in. We will take the first one. The last four digits, it's 8634. I broke my glasses, y'all, so you have to forgive me. It's 8634. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Nikki. Phenomenal job. Pamela Hawkins again.
Hi, Pamela.
I've been on all these calls, and I'm learning so much. If what you learn gives wrinkles, my brain is so wrinkled right now. My question is, and I understand about taking it to the next level and finding your niche. I guess I feel like I'm at this place where I'm finishing up some other manuscripts. I know which one I want to push first. And thank you for whoever it was that released that story about their personal life, because people have been asking me to write something about my personal journey, just everything I have been through, because I share bits and pieces. But how do you get to that point? Like, I'm starting to get followers, and because I'm trying to focus on your manuscript, and I'm doing a lot of this by myself full time, whether it's the Pinterest, people are starting to follow my boards, and I see it growing gradually, trying not to be too anxious and know that it comes with time. But how can I guess, feel as though I'm balancing it and can take it to that next level, like before I release the next book, and make sure, that I do everything right as far as editing and that sort of thing? How do I guess I'm asking, how do I get that balance, where I can get to the next level and get that next income stream in? Because I know which direction I want to take my writing. I don't want to just write books. I have the website, I have Pinterest, I have, followers on Twitter and this sort of thing. I want to take it to the level where at some point maybe even film with some of the things I'm writing about. How do I get, I guess, to that next level, as far as doors opening?
Okay. You know what? This is Donyelle, if you don't mind me answering. I tell people all the time, there's only two teachers, in your experience and someone else's. That's it. I mean, and so you have to make a decision. Do I forge ahead and do my best to try to figure this out on my own, or do I seek out professional help to try to help me figure this out? None of it's tried and true. And I tell my clients this, even as I'm helping you, there are some things, because your industry may be slightly different than mine, that we may be figuring out as we go. However, because I've done this or that or this or that, I can give you a great hypothesis, which is an educated guess, versus you trying to make an uneducated guess on your own. And so I tell this to everybody, regardless as to who it is. If you have the means, seek professional help. And if you don't have the means, find the means to seek professional help, because I promise you, you'll go a lot further, a lot faster with professional help. It'll be worth every penny you spend. You're going to spend the money anyway. I spent the money in mistakes because I didn't know, to seek professional help. So that's just my rendition.
April?
I think Donyelle answered that perfectly. I think that, in regards to her balance piece, I think one thing is, what season are you in? I don't believe it. Here's the thing with balance. Balance doesn't mean that all parts are equal. It just means it all equals a whole. So
right.
Sometimes that I think when we let ourselves off the hook of, trying to do everything, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, no, it might be 1356 over here. I think it's about whatever season you're in. So I think there are seasons when you are hyper-focused on a specific thing, and it may be developing your audience, building your platform, collaborating, writing. I think that once you accept that, I think that relieves some of that pressure so that you can more easily go and move into the flow of your purpose. So
I definitely agree, but I know, April, you posted something, and it even resonated with me, and I can't remember exactly how you said it, but, I mean, you said that social media is great. It's a great part of your strategy until it keeps you from being productive. So I think people get really caught. Do you remember saying it?
Oh, yes, I do. And let me just say something. Mark Zuckerberg ain't cutting nobody no check.
He not.
So, and I think that's just as plain, sister girl, as I can say it. Because
and that's a really valid point. I'm glad you said it like that, because one of the things that I think we all tell people is when you're starting to share content and you're starting to build your brand and you're creating all of this stuff, there's very few things on the internet that you own. So we spend all our time on Facebook, but like you said, nobody's cutting us a check. And if he decides tomorrow that he wants to go away and go sit on an island and have, Mai Tais with his wife and shut Facebook down and not worry about it, that's a real possibility. And so all of the audience that we've built up on Facebook, I mean, take MySpace as an example. All the energy that people put into MySpace, and now it's practically defunct, even though they've tried to bring it back, and it has not worked. So that entire, I got like 20,000 people on MySpace, but it's not doing me any good.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to realize books are the content that you own. Your website, that's content you own. And so you have to realize that if you're just being busy for the sake of being busy, then that's just an excuse.
Mhm. You got to ask yourself, busy doing what?
Right.
Because if it ain't busy making money, you just busy.
Right. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 6702, you are up. What's your question?
Did you say, I guess you called me.
Yeah, I guess you did.
Okay, this is Deborah from Florida. Again, I'm enjoying everything. Thank you, Nikki, so much for bringing this forum to people like myself. My one question is, I dusted off a manuscript that I had started some years ago, and I've become re-energized about, I read over it and started writing on it again today. How short is too short and how long is too long in what you're writing? And then my next question is, I am a singer and a musician also, but not a very good musician, but enough that I can pick out what it is that I'm actually writing, and kind of put something to it to help somebody else help me. But I had the idea some time ago that on some of the songs that I'm writing, that I've written, when I put them out, I would like to do a music book. And by me not being such a great musician, and I think it goes to the question that the other young lady asked, how do you, I guess, seek someone to help with that, to do the scoring or whatever needs to be done to actually pull the book together. I've got the ideas, but I really don't know enough about the music. I know I can read a little bit, just enough to be dangerous, but I need help.
Have you tried Google?
No.
And that's a really, go ahead.
Go ahead, baby.
So this is something I want to say, because I know where Danielle is going with this. We have to really, the one thing that I have learned about being an entrepreneur, because that's what you will be, that's what you are, is that we have to be so resourceful. And really just, you have to be resourceful. And I think sometimes, we don't ask, and I'm glad that you asked this question, because I'm sure that our response is for everyone that's listening, that we have to be resourceful. We have to go that next step. I think when you're in that zone where you need to stretch yourself, not break, but stretch yourself, so that means you got to get a little uncomfortable. You have to ask yourself, have I done enough, in this specific area? And when you do enough, then ask yourself, but have I done enough? And if you can still stretch yourself without breaking, then do that. So I think that's definitely I just feel where Danielle was going with that about.
Yeah, I know you did.
And do.
We simpatico.
This is like we're sitting around the kitchen table right now. So yeah. Go ahead, Danielle.
So what I was gonna say, Miss Deborah, this is Deborah, right?
Yes, it is.
It sometimes you gotta, and I'm gonna be honest, and this is probably a question like April said for everybody. Sometimes we hide behind we don't know where to start. That's a fear mechanism. Because in a day and age where you can sit up and Google anything, have you sat in front of your computer and said, Google, how do I, or who will, or who can I hire to do this for me? You know, it's easy to say, I don't know how. It's a little bit harder to go out there and find the resource. And there were so many things that I did not know when I started writing my first book, when I started my coaching firm, when I started my speaking career, before I started any one of these women's movements. But I had to go out there and say, who can do it, who has done it, who knows how to do it, who's doing it already. I had to follow some folks. I had to watch some people. That's why I stay up late and get up early, because everything is a research project. Everything is, can I make it happen? And if somebody in the world is already doing it, then it's your job to follow that breadcrumb to say who's already doing it and how can I do that same thing. Like my grandma used to say, rest in peace, Big Mama, ain't nothing new under the sun. Nothing. So anything you come up with, somebody's already doing some shape, form, or fashion of it, and it's up to you to pick up this piece and that part and this piece and that part and make it your own. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, it does. Makes a lot
Very
of sense.
good.
You're the second person today that's told me about fear.
Confirmation.
So,
confirmation, baby.
I got it, sister. I've got
it. Probably been on these calls. I mean, you really do have to just start. And I think that we do get caught up. I mean, because when I thought about doing a telesummit like last year, I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. It's just too much. And I was telling April earlier today, I cannot believe that I'm doing this and how much fun it's been and how easy the process was. But that's because I didn't try to recreate the wheel.
Right.
And that's because I asked the questions of the people that I knew would be willing to help. I mean, you have to know who you can go to, and you have to know that it's not, recreating the wheel. And so, we talk about being coached and everybody needing professional coaches, but everybody on this call has a professional coach too. So it's like you're always going to need somebody to hold your hand and keep you accountable to take you to the next level. And, Deborah, I think that what you do is you just get caught up in the busyness of it and not actually being productive. So your question has been answered, right?
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
I have a comment, too, to Deborah.
Okay, go ahead.
Just real quick. I think you got too many things going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we are afraid that if we don't have all these balls in our hand and we're juggling, that's something, that we failed at a thing. And a shelf is real, okay? Put some of that stuff on a shelf, relieve yourself of some stress, and focus on one thing at a time so that you can perfect that. Because, God didn't put our gifts and our purpose for us to be doing it haphazardly and just be all over the place with it. Put some things on the shelf, and it's not just for Deborah, it's for everybody. So you can't do everything at the same time with excellence. Perfect a thing so that when you do put what you've learned into your next thing, you already know the process. So you're not juggling. You're walking with one ball on your pinky finger, because you understand the process, because you gave yourself that opportunity to really learn it and to implement it. So that was just my feedback on that.
Well, thank you, ladies. You all have given me confirmation. You all, it really has resonated. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad, Deborah. I'm glad. And one of the reasons, Danielle and April, that I really wanted to do. Somebody said once, and I can't remember if it was Maya Angelou or Iyanla Vanzant, but they said if there's a book that you need and it's not really out there or wasn't out there when you needed it, then it's your duty to write. You have to write the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I looked for was not necessarily a book from one person on how to be an entrepreneur and how to push through the barriers, but I wanted a group of people. I wanted, like, entrepreneurs to tell me and to shorten my learning curve for being in business, just like I wanted to do this for people who wanted to be an author. So when April and I were talking some time ago, one of the things that I kicked around was doing a collaboration book filled with entrepreneurs giving advice to their younger selves, I guess, in business, and what that would look like. And so that's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to get entrepreneurs, people that are walking the talk, walking the walk and talking the talk, and really want to help somebody else in this whole journey as an entrepreneur. So that is going to be a collaborative book project that I'm putting together that's going to be published in probably the summer of 2015. And I want people who want to do that, who want to give advice to other entrepreneurs and help them shorten the learning curve. But the benefit of this is, one, you don't have to do it by yourself, because I'm heading it up and nothing I do is going to not work. So you don't have to do it by yourself.
I know that's right, nigga girl. I know that's right. So you're right.
To not only my brand, but other people who are determined to succeed as well. So you'll definitely get more information about that. People have already started emailing saying that they want to be a part of it. And I'm only going to take a select group of people. I mean, you have to want it. You're going to have to write your chapter. But at the end of the day, you're going to have something in your hand that's going to make you a published author, and it's going to help you start to build your brand. And it's going to eliminate some of the fear that you need, that you have now in becoming a published author. So we're going to look for 15 people, and that's going to be it. It's going to be 15 people. So I'm really excited about that. But like I said, you'll be getting more information. But people are already ready to be in this book.
Look, and I just have to jump in here because I just have to say, because I already know the juice, and so I already spilled the beans on a previous call that I wasn't supposed to. But let me just share this: the part of, if I could have jumped on a Nikki Woods coattail, because she was already who she is when I got started.
Right. Right.
Okay. And so I'm just saying, if I could have jumped on that coattail, I would have taken the opportunity, because I would not have wasted thousands of dollars and time, energy, and money. You know, if I could invest, and I think Nikki's collaboration project is like $1,600. So if I could have invested that money.
April, I paid $1,500 for my first book cover. You don't know what you don't know.
So,
no, that's exactly right.
If I had that opportunity to connect myself with a brand that is already global, with a person who has access to so many people, and I could learn from them, I would absolutely be on that bandwagon. So if you have not emailed her, inbox her on Facebook to learn more and how you can get one of the 15 spots, how you can be one of those 15 people who gets to stand on a national stage with her in Dallas next summer, that's amazing. And I think, and I just have to say this is a perfect segue for the person who is writing their own book and who does not have a strong platform.
That's right.
It's a perfect segue, because while you're learning, because this is the behind the curtain that they always tell you is behind the curtain, and then you get back there and it ain't nothing but an empty box. This is really behind the curtain, to go through a professional process and not have to do the entire thing yourself. So I'm like, sign me up, get a part of that process, get some information, and skip the line. That's what people don't understand. You pay to play, and I'm not afraid to say that. You pay to play. If I need to know something, then I'm going to make the investment, because I don't want to spin my wheels for another 6 months or a year when I can learn something in 1 day or 5 days or 5 weeks, right, or 5 months. I don't want to spin my wheels in my greatness, in my brilliance, and you shouldn't have to either. So if you're interested in that, I think you should definitely hit her up, because as soon as we hang up this phone, I'm going to tell everybody. And, and I don't know.
I am too. And look, I got a big network of women who I'm finna hit up all my coaching clients, about 100 of them, and then I'm finna hit up my network. It's about 1,000, 1,500, a couple thousand of them. And so y'all better hurry up, because y'all lucky I'm at work right now.
And I think that it really is going to be an amazing, I think, journey. And like April said, I mean, this is a perfect stepping stone to not only just get it under your belt and say you're a published author, and to learn the process so that you can write your own book. But it also sets you up immediately as an expert, so you get the speaking gigs like April talked about. You get the media exposure. You get the coaching clients. I mean, this is a win-win situation for everybody. So I'm super excited, and it's just, one way that I also want to give back, because I have been so fortunate in my journey as an author as well. So thank you, ladies. I appreciate that. We got some more questions, so we'll take those. I want to honor everybody's time, but I knew when I had April and Danielle that this was going to be the result. It's magic. It really is. So our next question is 8358. 8358.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, this is Janella calling back again. I called earlier today, and I believe you all already answered my question. I'm going to ask it again, because maybe I might get a different insight. My question is there some type of Chitlin circuit for, I guess, doing speeches or presenting your finished product to potential readers, or your possible future tribe, or is there a roadmap that's kind of already out there that we can follow? Besides, I guess going up on, I forget the name of it. There's a website that you can put your possible speeches on and events at and of that nature. I don't know.
So is your question, you're trying to find speaking opportunities?
Right. Is there some type of Chitlin circuit?
I don't eat. Stop saying chitlins.
I don't eat. I eat chitlins. I don't eat chitlins. I do not eat chitlins.
Back in the day, comedians, they had like a route, and the musicians, they had a route that they went.
No. I know what it is. I just don't eat them.
Okay.
And Chitlin circuit also implies that you're going to go on some kind of speaking tour where you're not going to get paid with your words, and that's not anything anybody on this call advocates. So.
Right.
You're going to go on the caviar circuit. How about that? Okay, right. So I think that, and Danielle and April can also chime in on this. I mean, it's about networking, and it's about finding where the people are that you want to speak to and letting them know that you're available to speak. You have to tell people.
I was going to say that, Nikki, same thing.
Yeah, you have to open up your mouth and tell people. And there may be some times where you're going to have to say, just being exposed to this group of people is worth me not asking for $10,000, or it's worth me not, flying myself in, because at the other side there's going to be a greater benefit. You just have to weigh where those opportunities are, but you have to find out where your tribe is, and then you have to go there and talk to them.
And I'm going to go back to what April said earlier. You have to have more stuff for sale than just your books. And at that case, if your tribe is, like Nikki said, retired women, then get with the AARP. See when they're going to have their quarterly mixers. Show up at the National Association of Retired Persons and speak, and then you have your book and whatever other offerings you have to help these retired people. And even though you may not get a check for speaking, so to speak, you get the exposure of speaking for the AARP, which is a national organization. Then you get to offer your products, and then you build your speaking track record based on you've spoken in all of these places, and so the eventual, end state is you want to be paid for your speaking, but sometimes you do make that trade-off. But it starts right wherever you are in your local city. You have to become a local celebrity before you can become a worldwide celebrity. I
was just getting ready to say that. One of the things that I learned, the first time around with the book, everybody wants to try. They want to go to New York and sell their book, and they want to go to Miami and sell their book in all these big markets. But you're spending a lot of money to go to people that may not care about you as much as the people right where you are. I mean, for your neighbor to say 2 doors down lives a published author is a really big thing. And once you are a celebrity in your town, then the word will spread, and then the opportunities will become greater, and then you'll have people trying to bring you in. instead of you spending your money trying to go to New York to talk about a book and you haven't said anything at home.
Yeah, I think I just want to comment real quick. I think Janella, hey Janella, I think it's a good question. How do you accomplish that? But I do believe that the more your local market, I think is a gold mine. I think people we do, want to do all, because I think you can have a book tour in your city, like especially where you are. Just because I happen to know you, I know you're in the Dallas metro area, Fort Worth, whatever. Literally, you could do Fort Worth, Las Colinas, the Colony, Louisville. You could speak at a place in all those different little, surrounding cities in there, and do your own, thing within where you are. I've seen people do. I think someone that I used to work with, she did a book tour in her own city, in Philadelphia, in those different places. And so, yeah, absolutely, great question.
And you know what, April, we do that with Wealthy Sistas Network. We do Clear Lake, the Woodlands, Sugar Land, Pearland, Katy. We ain't traveled an hour. We ain't even outside the city limits. But, you got, every time we have an event, we have 150, 200 women there. But it's just so many millions of women that you think you have to go to Chicago and New York, and you don't necessarily have to. You have to make hay while the sun shines, and you have to be productive where you are initially.
Absolutely. And some of those, and when you think outside of the box and you think about, going to some of those smaller cities who may not have the kind of, celebrities coming through like that a Chicago would or a New York City would, they love you so much for coming to their small town that they will be fans forever, because they're not used to seeing it. And so it's really important that you look in your neighborhoods and you see how you can. Libraries love for authors to come in and give workshops and also sell their book. Conferences, there's just so many things you can do. Or you can be like Danielle and April and start your own doggone network and then be able to feed people all across the country based on something that you really, really believe strongly in. So I think it's phenomenal.
And connect with me. We'll be in Dallas next month, so connect with me. We're doing a Texas tour. We're doing Dallas, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Austin, and then about 3 cities right outside of Houston. I don't need to leave Texas. Texas big enough.
There you go. So I want to give final thoughts. I want to wrap it up. I definitely want to honor your time, and I'm so appreciative of just having you two together with me on this call. But I want to take some final thoughts on, really building your business around this book and what it has meant to you and what advice you would give to get people started. Danielle?
So I will tell you, and I call it putting your passion on paper, that whatever you love to do, you're honoring it by putting it on paper, by writing it down, whether it be as part of a compilation, and that's a great way to start your career. But whatever it is, start it and finish it. Just the fact that you finished something is a great start to the many other things that you're going to be able to finish. That's why publishing a book is such a great catalyst, because it is the start of you being able to finish something. As women, we juggle. We have a lot going on. Sometimes we're a jack of all trades and a master of none. But publishing a book or being part of a book publishing project is actually proof that you can finish what you start. So I would have to say that for whatever it is that you're trying to write, and you must be trying to write something because you're on this call, I think the biggest honor you can pay yourself and whatever you were put on this planet to do is to put it on paper and leave that legacy for all time.
April, what is your final thought?
Gosh, what are my final thoughts? My final thoughts are, use fear as an indicator, not a sign that you shouldn't do something. And, ask yourself, what would the world be like if you don't write your book? What would the world be like? What would be missing? Because I think your story, whether it's for entertainment or to change someone's life, whether it's to inspire someone or to make them think, whether it's to teach someone how to do something, I think you need to ask yourself, what would it look like if you never did it? And we're all just regular human people. Listen, Danielle and I were just joking about sleeping on the floor in Cleveland a couple years ago.
Girl, you have not presented it.
I'm not so old school. But I'm just saying, because sometimes people look at you and they feel they get caught up in celebrity or this glamour thing, and we're just regular people who are pushing through, through. Life is happening every day, so don't allow life to be an excuse. This is just a part of it. It is a part of it. It's almost like, just buckle up for the ride. Put your rain boots on, your big girl panties or your big boy drawers, yes, I say drawers, and your raincoat, and just go and do it. So, the last thing I just want people to take away is do what is necessary to get your message out there. Make the investment in you and your audience. And this is an investment in the world. This is something that, I love to share and will outlive you. Danielle and I were speaking before we got on this call, and we were talking about a dear friend of ours who passed away just on October 17th. And she was just like many of us. She was passionate about a thing. She was committed to making it happen. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't do everything right, but she was committed to making it happen. And I always used to say, your book will outlive you. And I'm going to tell this story, and hopefully, Nikki, you can just grace me, and hopefully you all can grace us with your time. When I was at her funeral, and we were walking to view the body, and this is how serious this is, because it happened, because I used to say it all the time. And then it happened to someone that I knew and someone that I respected and that I loved, who was just like me, just living their dream in the pursuit of what God put them here to do. And as I was walking by, I looked up to my left, and there was sitting her book, Faith of a Mustard Seed. Her book was sitting on a counter as I was walking to go view her body. Like, that is so, I don't say that to sadden you. That's just real. So people were buying it in support of her and her foundation. And just think about that for a minute. Like, our world is so big, and we are all here to make some kind of impact, because it's all necessary. The inspiration, the laughter, the tears, the hurt, all of it is necessary for mankind. And when I saw that book, when I looked up to the left of me, I will just never forget it, because I almost just broke down like, oh, my God. Like, it really will. Like, that's how important and relevant what you have to say is to the world. Thanks, Nikki.
You're welcome. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Because that's what I always tell people. I'm here to put a dent in the universe. I might kick it in if you give me a chance. And those are the kind of people that I want with me. This is not about, just putting out a book to say that you've just put out a book. This is to change lives, yours and the world. It's to change yours, and it's to change other people's lives. And that's what I'm doing. And if you want to walk with me in that kind of a walk, then I'm more than happy to have you with me. But I'm not playing around. And nobody on these calls are playing around. We love what we do. We love who we do it for, and we play really, really big. And you all, on the call, you have to play big, because you have spent 3 days with me, a lot of you. You've been on every single call. I've gotten tons of emails. If you happen to miss a call, when are you sending out the replay? And that means that you want it, and you want it bad, and you're willing to go get it. And that's who I like to roll with. So you will definitely get more information. I really appreciate everybody that's been on the TeleSummit. I look forward to seeing what everybody is going to do to finish out the year strong, but also the amazing things that are going to happen for us all in 2015. And I really encourage you to follow April and to find out what she's doing, to be, she's a celebrity in her town. She knows how to make it happen in her city, and to follow Danielle and become a part of the Wealthy Sisters Network on Facebook. She's not charging anybody to join. You can join, and you can connect with all of these other women who are doing really, really big things. And she's famous in Houston now, and now she's telling you she's going all from Texas. She's going to make all of Texas her hometown, and that's incredible. So I applaud you, and I love you, and I appreciate you, and I see you. I see everything that you're out there doing, and I think it's amazing. So, Donyell, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. You never fail to answer the call, and for that I appreciate it.
Oh, I love you, Nikki. Thank you for having me.
And April, I mean, you talk about ride or die.
April ride or die. April's crazy. I don't know how I got hooked up with April. I ain't been able to shake her yet. Doggone it.
But it's so funny because one day you're going to have all three of us in a room. That hasn't quite happened yet. We've all been in separate rooms with each other. But in 2015, all three of us will be in a room, and that's going to be quite something to see. And I hope all of you are there with us when that happens. So enjoy the rest of your night, but don't let the energy die. Definitely keep it alive and look, be on the lookout. For those of you who have already emailed me, you're going to be getting an email tonight, and I'll be sending it out. But I want this group to have the first opportunity. But like Donyell and April said, after that, it's going out to the world. And so we'll be taking the first 15 people who want to walk this walk with me in 2015. So everybody have a good night. I'm Nikki Woods. It's been the So You Want to Be an Author Now What Telesummit. And like I said, I look forward to seeing what you're going to do in 2014, but even more so in 2015. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.